Hey, and what's up guys, my name is Jurijs and welcome to today's video. Today presenting to you from the ScapersLounge in Hanau, Germany. And you can see one of my creations behind me. This is what today's video is going to be about. This 1.20 m by 50 by 50 centimeters clear glass aquarium, and I have aquascaped about 1 month ago a diorama style aquascape in there. This is a style of its own, I don't know. You don't have any carpet, you just have rocks and epiphytic plants sitting on the rocks. If you know how to call this style, drop me a comment below. It might be called something like Penjing from the bonsai direction, I'm not sure. Let me know if you know better. Anyway guys, today I would like to take you through a step-by-step process how I created this layout, and if you want to see how it looks like right now or in a little bit from now, like a follow-up video, just make sure you're subscribed. Hit that notification bell to make sure you don't miss any new videos. And now let's get into the making of creation process of this aquarium. So starting out, I was given a task to recreate one of my aquariums, and as a viewer of my channel you probably know the Dentist Aquarium. The Dentist Aquarium, you have this vertical rock structure that are fully covered with hygrophila Pinnatifida. What's so special about this tank is very narrow, it's quite tall, and it can be seen from both sides. And the original inspiration for the Dentist tank came actually from an aquarium that Takashi Amano has set up at the Nature Aquarium Gallery in Japan. Amano has used Unzan Stones and they were fully covered with Pinnatifida. Something like this you can still see today in the Sumida Aquarium. My task was to recreate something similar like this, a vertical rock structure fully covered with Pinnatifida and other epiphytic plants. To do so, I decided to use Minilandscape rock that is already pre-glued together to some sort of vertical structures. We call them in Germany China mountain stone. They come like a letter A flat surface, then it goes up and has like 3 spikes, and it's available in 3 different sizes, and I obviously use the very large pieces. And to put them more compact together and to break up this very kind of regular looking shape, because they all look the same, I've broken them into parts, or I have asked specifically for damaged units that were damaged in transport. So we did a little upcycling material here. And I used probably inside this aquarium something like, I would guess, easily 100 kilograms of Minilandscape rock. So I started by placing the largest stone on that line. You can say this is like the rule of thirds to make the aquarium look very natural. I balanced the stone with a smaller stone underneath so it doesn't fall over, and then I used another stone which is almost equally the same size right behind it to make like a twin tower. If you look closely in between the rocks, you can see they're not really touching each other, but they're like a spiral that goes around an axis. In between them is a very nice cave, and it looks like a very interesting rock structure. So from far away it looks like one solid rock, but if you get close you can see there is a gap in between, but it's kind of twisted. And then I replicated that kind of rock structure in several parallel lines. So if you have a view from above, you can see 3 or 4 parallel lines of those rocks building up and then falling down towards the back. This way I've been able to create a very impactful and dynamic and very deep looking kind of Iwagumi or diorama style layout in just quite narrow aquarium for this type of layout, or to build up this height, because we have over here, I think the tip of the rock is even above the water surface, so it's like 60 centimeters tall. So I'm getting to 60 centimeters within just 25 centimeters of depth, and I have some free space in the front as well. So really use those large and vertical rocks. I built the entire structure one by one, and you want to look for the rocks that have kind of similar size but at the same time a different shape and appearance, combining them in the best possible way to build up this landscape. You also want to break up the line, don't have the same pattern over and over again. For that reason, I have some sort of an open space in the middle, and on the right side of the aquarium we have another rock structure on the second line of rule of thirds or golden rule ratio, where the whole structure replicates. So you have a lot of small hills and big hills, and you have like this chain of mountains like volcanoes. You can have these volcanic islands in the ocean. It could be something like that. I balanced the layout by using smaller rocks around them towards the base, and before I added the smallest rocks, I have filled in the cosmetic sand. We decided not to use any plants growing in the substrate, so no soil has been added to the sand, so we have just inert gravel in here. Finally, the very smallest mini landscape rock details were added to the layout, and the sand was brushed into perfect shape before I called the hardscape finished. This hardscape really demonstrates the power and dynamic of rocks and is looking very interesting and keeps maintenance very little because you don't have a carpeting plant that you have to trim very often. In the part 2 of the workshop, I started planting the aquarium. I have only used epiphytic plants, but some of them are not really classic epiphytic plants. I have used Hygrophila Pinnatifida, Micrantema Monte Carlo, Anubias Petite, and Bucephalandra species green, as well as some moss for the foreground details. If you want to see how I made the mossy rocks for the foreground, I recommend to check out the pro tip. It will be linked up here in a pro tip video. To summarize it for you, you chop the moss in small pieces and you glue it on top of the rocks. Next, I have added Monte Carlo on the rocks, and for this I like to use tissue culture Monte Carlo simply because it's so small and compact, and you can divide it in small portions and just stuck them somewhere in between the stones, and it's just going to stay there and grow from there. Just make sure the Monte Carlo sits securely, so just press it very deep into the gap if necessary, because the roots are not going really to attach to the stone. It's just going to stay there just because of the plant mass that is squeezed in between the rocks. Try to distribute the Monte Carlo as evenly as possible around the stones to achieve a cohesive look. Next, I have used Anubias and Bucephalandras. I tried to use Anubias more close to the ground and Bucephalandras slightly higher positions, like on the mid-level. The Anubias and Bucephalandras I first of all have cleaned off the rock wool, and then I just used the roots of the plants to put the plant in between the rocks and make it stay there secure. If necessary, I have used gel type super glue. Basically any cyanoacrylate based glue will do the job here, and I have glued those plants by simply applying a little bit of the super glue on the plant and then pressing it for 10 seconds against the rocks. Finally, I have planted the Hygrophila Pinnatifida on the rocks, and to do so you really don't have to follow any structure. Of course, you can try to apply the Hygrophila Pinnatifida in between the gaps. You can use very small pieces and branches and twigs. I recommend using tissue culture Pinnatifida because it comes very small and is already kind of branchy and is spreading out a lot better than potted Hygrophila Pinnatifida. But if you don't find any more gaps or cracks to put in the Hygrophila Pinnatifida, you can just super glue it to literally anywhere on the rocks. Just try to cover the rocks more or less evenly with Pinnatifida because you want to spread it from there and to cover the rocks entirely. Maybe if you didn't know, Hygrophila Pinnatifida is originally a stem plant. It comes from India and grows in swamps, and it's quite of a bushy stem plant, but when it touches hardscape material like rocks or wood, it is producing special roots which they then attach to the surface. And I think, in my opinion, Pinnatifida is the most fast attaching epiphyte plant I have ever experienced. So when Pinnatifida will be growing on the rocks, by the time it's going to cover all the rocks with these side shoots. To achieve a very compact and miniature Pinnatifida growth and this kind of even cover around the rocks, you have to trim it frequently. First of all, you will have to make sure you trim off all the vertical shoots because this is going to encourage side shoots. This is it, guys. It kind of wraps up this step-by-step tutorial. Enjoy the final B-roll of the finished layout. I hope you enjoyed the making of process, and like I said in the beginning, make sure you subscribe to my channel, hit that notification bell to get notified every time I upload a new video, and specifically if you want to see an update video on this aquarium, how it looks grown in with Pinnatifida, slowly spread out all over the rocks and with fish added to the aquarium. And by the way, which fish would you add to this tank? Drop a comment down below. As always, thanks for watching, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. Peace!